Ayy, badass black girls, and they making big moves. Ayy, badass black girls, nothing that you can't do. They are the future, I'm trying to tell ya. They want the best, no time to settle. They got the strength to handle the pressure. These are the queens, nobody better. Yeah, changing the narrative, that is imperative. They about to rock this. Tell the women that you got this. Got no time for people who are toxic. It's all love, good vibes. You know I got your back, girl. Talking issues that matter. This is badass black girl, yeah.
Hello everyone, MJ here with Mahalia for a new season of Badass Black Girl, and today we have a very special guest, Janella McCloud, a very accomplished badass woman who's going to tell us today about her new book, The Miami Times and the Fight for Equality, Race, Sports, and the Black Press from 1948 to 1958. Wow. That's the first thing I said when I saw the title. Wow.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Well, hello. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you both.
It's so good to have you here, Janella, and we're excited. You're going to be at the book fair this year, the Miami Book Fair. Tell us a little bit about that. What's happening with the book fair? What are you going to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm very honored to have been selected as a featured author for the Miami Book Fair for this year. I think appropriately so when it comes to the topic of my book, which is focusing on a very, very important institution in the Miami community, and that is the Miami Times. And that's a Black-owned newspaper that was established in 1923 by Bahamian immigrants who came to this country in order to help advance their families' lives. And, you know, Miami was just beginning. And so the book is an effort to try and maintain and preserve that very important history, not only about the newspaper, but the people behind it and the community that it served.
That is so, so important. I remember talking to Mahalia and looking at the title and going through the book. And there is so much history that we in Miami, because we're both in South Florida, Mahalia and I,
Okay.
there's so much history that we don't know. And it's refreshing. And I mean, I'm so excited about this book.
Thank you. Yeah,
And I also, sorry, I just wanted to also say thank you, because there's a lot of things, like you said, there's a lot of history that we don't know. And I think it's great that you're shedding awareness and light on some of these topics. And so I always appreciate stories like yours and like other stories, you know, like Loving and When They See Us, and, you know, those kind of stories that may have been forgotten in the past, or that we have never heard of them, or we have heard of them, but they've just kind of faded in the background. So thank you for that you just brought just that specific, topic, because I had never heard of that. So yeah,
thank you. And that's the goal, to not let our history fade into the background, and to make sure that we're telling stories from our perspective. Mm-hmm. And when I think about the Black press, all of our stories, the Black press told stories about the African and the Black community, the good, the bad, the ugly, but we saw our births there, our marriages there, our accomplishments, our challenges, and our struggles. And in the mainstream press, if Black people were covered, it was from a negative perspective, from the crime scene or some kind of social negative aspect related to segregation. And so that's where we find the totality of Black life in the Black press. And we're so blessed that the Miami Times continues to exist today, and that it's something that's been preserved through microfilm and all of that, because every kind of story is in there. You can learn about a lot of badass Black girls just reading the Miami Times.
So tell us a little bit. We were intrigued by that. How did you come to be who you are? This person writing about such an important topic, and we looked at your career, and we were just, wow. Tell us a little bit about how Janella McCloud came to be.
If you ask my brothers, I'm the only girl. It's not a prestigious existence. They're like, who, her, get out of here. So I'm just grateful. I mean, I've had a lot of people pour into me and apprentice me and train me, starting with my own grandmother and my mother and my father. So, but in the realm of professional, by training, I was a student at Florida A&M University, FAMU in Tallahassee, Florida. That's a historically Black college here in Florida. Florida's only public historically Black college. And I studied broadcast journalism. And I quickly learned that I did not want to be in front of the camera as a reporter, just because people have so much control over how you look, how you speak, how you wear your hair, and if you should lighten your skin, if you should narrow your nose, and those things I just didn't have the temperament for. So I went behind the scenes, and I've always been a storyteller and a teacher. And if you ask my mother, God rest her beautiful soul, I started talking at 7 months and never shut up. So journalism was a perfect fit. And then I worked as an intern at a Black newspaper here in Tallahassee called the Capital Outlook. And from there, that's what really inspired my passion about the Black press. Just seeing that institution as a civil rights engine, one that was advocating for people, who stood for truth. And when I went to graduate school, I was encouraged to study what I know. And I was like, well, what's that? I know a lot. And they say, well, you know the Black press. And so that's what I pursued as a graduate student at Florida State University. And so I started looking at the Black newspapers in Florida, and the Miami Times was one that stood out for all of its pioneering efforts in business, in industry, in culture, and in civil rights.
I'm really curious about your experience at AMU. I'm originally from the Caribbean. I'm from Haiti. And when I was moving to the US, I wanted to come to Miami because it's so close to the Caribbean. And of course, I was asking people about colleges, kind of looking into colleges. So I ended up going to school right here in Miami. And I later learned, as I got informed about the culture here and everything that's going on, during a conversation, AMU came up. And I was so surprised to learn that there were schools that were Black only or predominantly Black. And I wanted to know about that experience, how it feels to attend a school that is serving primarily people like you.
Well, so FAMU starts in 1887, and just like the other institutions, Black colleges, they were created because African-American Black people, and I keep saying Black people because Black people are from all over. My family is from Panama, so I'm Panamanian. And so, but it was started because of the system of segregation, where Black people were not allowed to go to institutions of higher education here in Florida. Couldn't go to University of Florida, Florida State University, any of those things. So FAMU was started to give Black people an opportunity to get an education. And so it was October 3rd, 1887, here in Tallahassee. And we are actually on a former slave plantation. And so I'm a professor here, and I tell my students that literally this is sacred ground. The blood and the sweat of Black people who fought and died to make a way for the next generation is right here in these roots. And so it's very important that you live up to the esteem and the regard and the challenges and the sacrifices that were made for us to exist. But FAMU, when I got here in the early 1990s, I was a student from the 3rd grade to the 12th grade, where I was the only Black student in my class. I was in the gifted program in my county. And that right there tells you something's wrong. I could not have been the only gifted Black child in an entire county. And so when I came to FAMU, it was such an emotional experience, because here, I think I cried the first 2-3 weeks, because there were so many beautiful Black men, Black boys and girls and professors, and everything was here. And I was not an other. I was in a world where we all were trying to achieve the same goal, come from the same kinds of experiences, all being varied. And it was so beautiful. And when students come here at FAMU, we are expected to do well. And so you work your 4 years or however long you're here to live up to that expectation. And it's so beautiful when you don't have to worry about trying to prove your ability to others or trying to look a certain way, but you could just be comfortable in your skin. And that's the power of institutions like Florida A&M University.
I'm a little emotional right now because I imagine what your answer would be, because I've been imagining you know, in this environment where you feel that you finally have a voice, because in so many settings, Black girls and Black women don't have a voice. They are being patronized. They are seen as other. And I think that for the longest time in my life, I saw myself as other. I always saw myself outside. And I started imagining you, Janella, attending this university because I read your bio and I remembered all the conversations I've had about the school. And what you're saying is so much more beautiful than everything I imagined. And I imagined so much. And I want to thank you for sharing your experience and um, affirming the importance of having a Black community.
Yes.
And and this is what we're trying to do here at Badass Black Girl as well, just creating a community of Black girls and Black women who are strong and supporting each other. And we're so happy that you're part of this community as well.
Thank you.
One thing that stood out when I was reading, because I did some research, I don't have your book, but I did some research about the story that you covered. And there's a few things that stood out for me that just had me questioning, because when it came to the golf course, you know, it was only Monday only. And they were saying how the reason why they didn't open it up, it was because of an economic decision. And, you know, it's like it caused a decrease in rounds, and there was loss of revenue because obviously I don't think racism is ever going to go away, honestly. But everybody was so opposed to that the country club basically was losing money, you know, they're like, yeah. But I kind of feel like everything, even today, is a economic decision in regards to how they help either Black communities or anything, you know, regarding to our community. Just because if they're going to make money off of it, then hey, you know, okay, we'll support you. And I also kind of felt that about like the story that you're working on with Jake Gaither. You know, he made a comment about like he created this laboratory of athletes, and you know the other teams were afraid to even come against them because they kind of thought they were going to lose. But I kind of feel like the economic decision now today is that they are picking and choosing the formula to have these teams win. Mm-hmm. You know, the running backs are mostly Black, you know, but they're not the most important position on the team. So it just seems like that's still following us, you know, even today. And you had a very specific timeline, you know, the 48 to 58, and that was huge. And there's so many great trailblazers, but it just seems like that there's still always an economic decision, like just right under, you know, underlining so many things.
So that is the foundation of racism. And it's the reason why systemic racism is designed to give a population an advantage and to disadvantage another population, but it's economically. But if you have people separated socially, that's how you control the economics. Mm-hmm. And so in this particular story, the public golf course, the Miami Springs golf course that was maintained with taxpayer dollars, so it's not even a private institution, during this time was telling Black people that you can only play on this course on Mondays. And that was the day where they manicured the green. So they cut the grass, they had the sprinklers on, just total disrespect to an entire population of its citizenry. And so one of the reasons racism will always find a way to justify racism to make you think that you're crazy and that they have the rights to do what they're doing. So they use the economic argument to say there aren't enough Black people who want to play golf. When they do play golf, our white patrons don't want to play with them. And so we would lose money. And this was a complete lie. And that's what it initially started as the Negro Golf Association. Then it turns to the Cosmopolitan Golf Association. This was a group of Black golfers in Miami, all of whom were affluent members of the community. They were the business owners, they were the teachers, they were wealthy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of business deals get done on the golf course, where they just saw this as another obstacle that needed to be torn down when it came to equal rights. It was completely offensive. And so what I like about what I learned in the book was the strategy behind the scenes to tear down and to beat this opponent. Mm-hmm. And one thing they did was, they said, okay, you think Black people don't want to play golf? They organized a golf tournament that would happen every year. And it brought in 300 to 500 Black people from all over the country to play on that golf course. So that says economics is not the problem. They also had it where the young Black people in the community, the professional golfers or the avid golfers, would use the golf course to train them, to teach them how to play golf. So they saw the interest. All of this was laying the platform for this lawsuit that they were going to implement to say that segregation needs to come down here. So African Americans have been very strategic in this country on moving the needle for equality and being ahead of the game, a step ahead of the game, to say, we know what your next move is, so this is what our move is. But you're absolutely right. And when you look at the basketball teams and the football teams, that's why a commentator can tell LeBron James to just shut up and dribble, because Black people have always been a source of entertainment for white America. And because entertainment was, one, entertaining, and two, it drove their money. They could get money from it. But once you start coming outside of that box, then you become a problem. And so we've got enough Black men and women today who have more insight about that and who have collectively decided that we're going to work together to change the system. I know that was long. I'm sorry, I was rambling.
That was very insightful. It made me think about all those people were described as difficult. Mm-hmm. Oh, and yeah. It usually means, we don't want you to address some of the problems that you're facing, because that's not why you're here.
Right, you're not here for that. Right.
Yeah, you're here to meet our expectations. Right. And as soon as you're wearing a hat that's different than the one we gave you, we have a problem with that.
That's right. That's right. And that's been the history of Black people in this country from the first group that was trafficked from Africa to this country. That was an economic decision that was based on racism. If you got out of place and did not comply, you were in rebellion, or you were, militant. And they fought and resisted every chance they could. And that's how they had to implement laws. Every time you turned around, some new group of Black people who were enslaved was trying to escape or starting a revolt. And so all of these laws come into play to control their bodies and to control their movement. Those laws still exist today. They're just in a different format. So when we talk about the slave patrols that were created in order to monitor Black people who were off the plantation, because if you were off the plantation, something's wrong, because all Black people in this country, they said you need to be on that plantation. So you had slave patrols. Well, when slavery ends, then you're going to have the militias. Then the militias are going to turn into the Klan. The Klan are going to also, they're monitoring Black people's movement. Well, when we get into the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, you hear stuff called the neighborhood watch. The neighborhood watch is a derivative of slave patrols. Who are you watching? People who should not be here. Black people who are coming into these communities. And so Neighborhood Watch breeds people like George Zimmerman. And we all know that these are the people that are dangerous to the existence of Black folk who aren't doing anything. We lost Trayvon Martin in that way. And so all of these things stem back from slavery, and which is really key in the book to see how Black people have not accepted the position that institutional racism told us they had to stay in, never accepted it, and have always pushed against it.
Right. And there's always, I mean, our resistance and I always find the word fight to be the wrong word, because it just feels like you're going to get the same in return. So I just find that they were extremely empowering when they did that, because they went to the Supreme Court a few times to get this done. I mean, and I think eventually Truman was the one that kind of changed some laws there that kind of helped also, you know, but it was great to see their resilience with that. Like, we have to keep fighting for this. But I think I remember reading that wasn't their first tournament. I think they had outgrown other tournaments, and now the one in Miami was a bigger venue. And, you know, and so now because they had plenty of members, like you said, there were plenty of affluent Black men at the time. It's just that they were in the shadows, of course. So.
Yes, Black men and women across this country they started Black golf clubs and organizations, and they played. And part of the thing is, you see that those were the middle class or the wealthy African Americans, but they were the ones who were on the front lines fighting for social justice for the masses of Black people, because we're talking about a Black person who's just trying to get a job. They don't care about golf, right? Golf is just them trying to desegregate that golf course was a symbol to tear down racism in every aspect. So should they decide that they want to come on this course, that they have the right to do that. And so these people were the doctors, the lawyers, the college professors, the architects, the ministers. These were the ones that the communities looked to for leadership. And so they are going to exercise their leadership in fighting to desegregate beaches, public parks, theaters, schools. And the golf course is just but one example of the Miami Times and how it allowed its news pages to be used as a voice for Black people and as an advocate for Black people.
You partially answered my next question, but whenever we talk about the past, of course, we think about the present and what's coming in the future. So tell us a little bit about the situation now, the kind of, I know Mahalia, I don't like the word fight, but how the fight for equality continues.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You have to remain aware. See, the beauty of our generation is we don't have to fight the same fights that our mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers had to fight, but the system that they were opposing still exists. So institutional racism in education, in politics, in the economy, in healthcare, all of those things still affect us dearly today. They're just in a different form. And so today it's very critical that we pay attention and keep things on the radar for our communities. And that's the value of Black mediums, Black media, that are telling people they are behind the scenes seeing these issues that are going on, and they're bringing it to the public for their understanding and for their awareness. And so it's up to us as Black media to make sure we don't let things go under the radar, because the minute you do, you find yourself right back in the situation that our parents had. And we can look at, I look at the polarization since Donald Trump has become president, and the polarization that occurred when Obama became president. That's how a Trump could get elected. And I was looking at a video by the Black Eyed Peas and Jennifer Hudson called The Love. And in there, they're talking about our current social condition. And they're calling it the social justice movement, which is just another term for the civil rights movement. And the images of the people in the streets confronted by the police officers, the smoke, the arrest, they're in black and white, and they look like they're from the 50s and 60s, but they were just 3 months ago. And so it's ever present. And that's why it's so important. Like, for Black media, and I called even the blogs Badass Black Girl and these other blogs who have taken and social media to empower their voices. That's a part of the legacy of the Black press. You advocate, you agitate, you educate. And that's what is contingent upon us to continue doing today, because the challenges, the fight is still there. You know, it just looks different. The colored signs are down, but they have new phrases for those entryways that are being blocked.
And I just wanted to say that I'm so thankful that you're here, because one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of Black girls and Black women, they're aware, of course, of the problem that we're facing right now because they're living it. But sometimes they don't have the information that they need to be able to explain how the situation that we're in right now has roots in the past. And the fact that you're a specialist in history, in the sociology of racism and the Black experience, it's comforting to know that there's somebody we can turn to that will explain the nuances to us, that will let us know this is how things were, this is how they are now, this is how they can be, or this is how they will be if we don't do anything about the situation right now. And talking about things like sports and media and just the way all of it comes together to tell us a big story about the Black experience. I think it's extraordinary what you do with your book, what you do as a teacher. You've made your entire life is centered around educating other people, letting them know the truth and making a difference. And I wanted to thank you for that and let you know how exciting it is to meet you.
Thank you so much. I would encourage our younger generation to listen to their parents, listen to their grandparents, because we think that history was 100 years ago. And so when we talk about the Voting Rights Act of 1964 and the Civil Rights Act of 1965, segregation is going to basically end in 1969. My husband was born in 1969. My oldest brother was born in 1969. That's just 50 years ago. And 50 sounds long until you're looking at your uncle or your cousin who's 50. Right. And so integration is going to be in the 1970s. I was born in 1970s and in 80s, so it's such a living, breathing moment. And I tell my students that when I was in college at FAMU, I was home one day and I was studying history. And my father, who was a minister, a Baptist minister, he would always sit at the table reading, had his Bible open, his books open, and all of that. And I was reading something, and it dawned on me that my father was born in 1938. Mm-hmm. And I looked up and I said, "Daddy, did you have to drink from separate water fountains?" And he looked at me and said, "Yeah." Like how did what? How did you? Of course, you know what I mean. And so there's so much value in listening, just asking an elder a question. And they will open up if it's not too painful, because a lot of them have not talked about it because it's painful. It includes death and all kinds of stuff. But if they're willing to open up to you, you can learn so much. And the role that Black women have played in the preservation of our people has been incredible. And so just talking to mama or grandma or auntie or the Miss whoever in Sunday school, you will learn so much. Those are your histories. And the other thing is the Black experience is not a single experience. We have different experiences depending upon where we were from. And Black people are from all over this world. And the Black experience in Jamaica during slavery was different than in Haiti, than in America. But that's the beauty of when we come together today. One of the biggest things I got out of going to Florida A&M University is I met Black people from all over the world, from the continent of Africa. I learned about new foods, new songs, new communications, new religions, new fights, you know, new interest. And so we are beautiful people, and we can't let the world tell us that we're not.
And I think, again, that's why, like, from like coming full circle with my initial comment of saying thank you, just these different mediums and these stories, new and old, that you're just bringing to light, you know, to just bring awareness, you know, and awareness to me means to know. So at least know, you know, I don't know if you're going to do anything about it. You know, some of the young people are kind of all over, but at least know it, you know, whether you got it from a documentary or you read it in a book, just at least know it, know your history, know where all that comes from. And like you said, yes, all the Caribbean has a different, I feel that we do have a different relationship with our history compared to being here in the United States. It is quite different. I mean, I grew up in New York and in Haiti. So yeah, it is very different to hear the history from the grandmothers and the great grandmothers then. And it's the same. I mean, it's just different, right? It's a different kind of racial tension, just like it is in India and China. It's just a different approach and a different all of it. But I have a question. So what are some things that you do daily to keep yourself authentic and real and just true, you know? And what would you tell some people today to encourage them and inspire them to live that way as well?
Well, I grew up with a very strong mother who she couldn't deal with fakeness and phoniness by any level or anyone. It was just real, right? But she encouraged me and my brothers. I'm the only girl, but she encouraged us to know our value. She never preached Black power in our house. It just was there because she lived it. We lived it because of the expectations. You had to go to school and do well. You have a brilliant mind, use it. When it comes to things like our beauty, my mother never told us that we were handsome or pretty, because in her culture, vanity was looked down upon, right? And you know, today they're all in the phones every day taking pictures. But she talked to us about the children who were hungry. You know, we would see the children who were sick. We would watch those types of programs. So she taught us to value our sense of meaning and character and integrity. So that's what I grew up in. So I never had an issue with that. But like every little girl, it may come a time to where you don't like what you look like.
Right, of course. Because
you've got a big forehead. See mine right there? That's that right? Right.
You're still covering the forehead.
Right. And that's just today, but you know,
okay.
I wear it back as well. But I grew up, my brother told me I didn't have a forehead, I had a 5 head because it was so big. And so I had the big forehead and I had the acne that covered my face. And so these are things, you're a kid and people can be unkind to you. Yes. But my mother would say, you are healthy. You know, you have 2 arms, 2 legs, you can function. So she focused on those things.
Right.
And so once I came to know, like with my forehead, I came to an awareness that I can't cut it off. It's a part of me. I might as well accept it. And she said, when you accept it, you will really see your true beauty. And so one day I bravely wore my hair back in the 9th grade. It was the most terrifying day of my life as a high schooler. And so I did have some people laughing at it, but I had a few people tell me, you look so pretty. Your face is so pretty. I like your hairstyle. And so at the end of the day, they were affirming what I thought, but I just didn't believe, because you were hearing all of this noise externally.
Right.
But what I encourage people to do is you have got to absolutely find the best and the beauty in yourself. You have to love yourself inside and out. If you don't like your forehead, maybe you have beautiful eyes. You know what I mean? If you don't, Find the feature that you can highlight and just be absolutely proud of. Now, don't share everybody all your business. Still have some modesty and some dignity. But at the end of the day, it's about self-identity.
Right.
When you know who you are, you can wake up every day in a clear understanding of how you're going to function in that day.
Right.
When you know who you are, you know what kind of mother you are or will be. You know what kind of wife you might be. You know what kind of teacher or professional you would be, because you've identified it and defined it for yourself. If you do not have self-identity, other people will define you for you.
Right.
And 99% of the time, that definition is either going to be one, damaging, or two, one that has someone in control of you.
Right.
And I'm a person that I don't like things controlling me. Never have as a kid. And so I have to be able to control it, control what I see and what I put myself in front of.
And you control your validation. It doesn't come from everyone else. It's that you can control that on the inside. Absolutely.
That's what you can control. I mean, before I was in relationship, I've dated losers and all of the kind of stuff, just like everybody did, probably did, but I married a wonderful man. But before that, I loved me. I went to eat by myself. I went to the movies by myself. I thought that I was just the most wonderful person to be around because
you just enjoyed your own company.
I enjoyed my own company. So if you can enjoy there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Right. And if you can enjoy being alone, then that means you can bring value to others when you are with other people.
For sure.
This is so true. Thank you for those words, because I think that even when part of us knows it to be true, we need to be reminded of that wisdom. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the book fair. So the book fair this year is online,
right?
Because of the COVID and the pandemic. And I invite everybody to visit miamibookfaironline.com. You can register right now. You don't have to wait until the book fair starts. You can register, and they're using a very interesting format this year. So a lot of the conversations are going to be on demand. So it's kind of a Netflix, Hulu for books. It's going to be fascinating, where you access a system all free this year. So there's absolutely nothing to pay. If you want to meet extraordinary writers like Janella Mccloud, you're going to register just so that you can have a username and password. Then you will be able to visit the different alleys, whether you're interested in fiction or if you're interested in true, powerful stories like Dr. McLeod's story, then you get to be in attendance and listen to those words of wisdom and learn about the history of the Miami Times, and also this interaction between authors. There's nothing like it.
Right.
It's so much knowledge, so much wisdom. It's just, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And like you said, this year, the walls are down. So everyone has access, and the access is international. And so, to be able to tap in and to see your favorite author or learn about new ones is just a gift. And I'm very grateful to the Miami Times for including me, but even being considerate enough with COVID to make that be the format for this year.
So let me ask you, ladies, the question is for both Mahalia and Dr. McLeod. Let's start with you, Janella. What are you looking forward to at the book fair, in addition to, of course, being a guest yourself? Are there specific writers that you're looking forward to discovering or getting to know a little better?
Yeah, so Terry McMillan has this new book out, I Almost Forgot About You. I love that title.
Right, that's a great title.
Yeah.
Great title.
And that means that that's someone who has just moved on. They took
Yeah.
their power back and moved on.
Right.
And so I'm really interested in tuning in to hearing her story and the background behind that. And I am someone who's now becoming a little bit more interested in kind of like the, not the supernatural, what do you call that? The fiction, the,
It's more sci-fi or dystopian type.
yeah, those types of things. And so I'm looking for authors to kind of tap into. I'm very squeamish, so and scary. But I started watching Lovecraft Country. I looked at a couple of episodes, freaked me out, but I thought it was so beautiful how they're blending history, the history of African and African American people into this horror kind of story. And so I want to kind of tune into some of the authors that are offering that genre. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
And I'm also looking forward to other people learning and just hearing the name Garth Reeves and Henry Reeves and Rachel Reeves. These were the publishers. It's a family-owned newspaper of the Miami Times, and just keeping their legacy alive. And so I'm just hoping that people will say, let me go learn a little bit more about this newspaper and what they stood for.
What about you, Mahalia?
Well, well, I usually attend the Miami Book Fair. And usually there's the weekend of, the fair where you're attending, but then the week prior is when you have those individual author, spotlights and showcases. I'm a mom, so I haven't, I'd have to pick and choose who I could go see because it was usually in the evening during the week, which is not always the best, when you're cooking and you have a household to take care of. So I kind of like that it is that platform now where it's on demand and I can access so many of those people. I did happen to go see Margaret Atwood on one of those moments, but I've missed some other authors that I really would have enjoyed to see in person. So I think this is just the perfect opportunity to be able to see all of the ones that I would love to visit. So yeah, I think that's awesome.
It's a great opportunity to remind everyone that the book fair runs from November 15th to November 22nd. So everything will be on demand. There is a schedule, however, if you want to catch it as it's going on, because some of those Q&A will be live. And you will have the opportunity to ask questions right away and get an answer, interact with authors. Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage everyone to register at miamibookfaironline.com. It's really easy. I did it in like 5 minutes. They basically ask you who you are, maybe some of your areas of interest. That's one of the questions that are not mandatory, but it helps to let them know what kind of activities you like. You put in your name, your email, and you receive a username and password, and you can attend any of the activities. They will start streaming on the 15th, and you will have access until the end of the fair, November 22nd. So encourage the book fair, encourage our extraordinary authors. For those of you who are just joining us now, well, we're at the end of the podcast, but you can always go back to the beginning. We have Dr. Janella Mccloud with us today. Janella, thank you so much for your words, for releasing this book, for being who you are, an important piece of the knowledge base that we're creating for Black people, particularly Black girls and Black women. And I wanted to ask you for some more wisdom. What would you want us to take with us today after this vlog?
Well, thank you again for having me and for your platform, Badass Black Girl. I mean, it's so important that people, the title of your platform means power. And so all I would encourage you to do is every day harness the power that's within you. And you find empowerment in so many things. From a little girl, I was a teacher. I had stuffed animals that I would teach to. And my younger brother, he's 4 years younger than me, he was the only little live pupil in there. And so, but eventually, I helped him learn how to read, et cetera. But I didn't know that I was operating in a natural God-given gift and a power of teaching. And we see where it brings me to today as a professor at Florida A&M University. So just think about, what is that thing that you really care about? What's the passion? What's your natural inclination? Are you drawn to art, to music, to stories, to medicine? And those things are the talents and the gifts that God gave you. Don't let people tell you that they're not interesting or they're not valuable, they're not going to make you any money. That is your tool to build and develop on that talent and that gift and talent, and it will make room for you. It will carve out a path for you to be able to do exactly what you love. And if what you think about purpose, and if you have a sense of purpose, you always have something pushing you. You always have momentum. And that purpose has to be more than about you wanting to have material things, a nice home, a car. If the purpose does not include people, then you're going to be struggling. Your purpose has to include people in some way, shape, or form. And Badass Black Girls, one of its purpose is to just show you the power in you and show you the genius and the beauty in you and to lift and elevate you. So find your purpose and know who you are. And those are just a couple of things that I would encourage women to do from small until old. There's no time limit to care about yourself and know who you are.
Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to seeing you at the book fair. And we will certainly stay in touch because there's so much more we want to ask you. You will have to come back at some point because I have so many more questions about um, who you are, Janella. You're so extraordinary, and I would love to, for many young Black women to get to know you so that they can follow in your footsteps because you're one badass Black woman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. God bless.
Thank you. Good luck on the book. Many blessings to you.
Thank you.